is Jay and Lori Pyatt from The Couple Cure with this week's question.
What to watch out for if you're a recovering addict?
Right. As we get into recovery, things that we need to be aware of are how our world changes the healthier we get, the further away we get from our drug of choice. There are little things that we're not paying attention to, and we thought it would be helpful to just call out a few of those in a short video so that you would know, oh, that's kind of normal, that's kind of typical, and this is my plan for dealing with it. In fact, after you watch this video, you might come up with your own plan for when they happen as opposed to waiting until they actually do.
Yeah, yep, that'd be a good idea. All right, did you want to jump in?
One of the things that addicts need to watch out for is this idea that just because I'm sober, everything's fine. Your world has changed, you have gotten sober, but her world is in deep turmoil. And until you have talked through what all happened and what she needs to hear to heal from the trauma, it's not fine. You know, sobriety is great, but it does not repair the past. And that's part of your process as you move forward in recovery.
All right. And even if you're not married, that might mean the same for your friends, your children, your family members as well.
Right. So then the next thing that you'll want to watch out for is we have a tendency to become more sensitive to sexual material. So what wouldn't have triggered us when we were actively using becomes more and more significant the more sober we get. The same is true for addicts of any other type, that you know, if they're clean from alcohol, it doesn't take a lot for them to get triggered again. It could be the smell, it could be the environment. So the same is true for you. Your awareness of all of those little triggers needs to increase, or they're going to continue to be in your environment. TV shows, magazines, if those are still a thing, comic books, those are definitely still a thing, movies, stuff on your phone, going to Facebook, something simple that you used to do all the time, may be something that you need to cut out of your life, because as you get sober, you'll realize just how much stuff is out there that can trip you up.
Yeah, kind of as a personal example, we had watched a series or two, and the first time Jay watched it through, he was pretty well deep into his hidden life, you know, acting out with porn a lot. And then when he got more sober, we watched through those again, because here I was thinking, you know, he didn't have any problem with it last time. And then when we rewatched through it, Jay was like, wow, I didn't realize all that stuff was in it. So we had to stop watching those things. One of the ways we describe this is re-sensitization, meaning the things that used to not trip you up before, after you're away from the more blatant over-the-top stuff, then, you know, it might be just pretty hair or a pretty smile, or, you know, a show with some lighter stuff in it that never got you before. So you might have to, you know, back off on certain things.
Right.
I would also say watch out for visual sips. What that is you take a little image, or you take a little look, and it gives you a little boost. Just imagine if, you know, somebody who was trying to get sober from alcohol just took a little sip, you know, it might not even have been his favorite drink or his go-to drink, but it still got alcohol in it, and it still gives him a little kick. So be careful of that. We have said before, 1 second look, 2 seconds lust, meaning 1 second is, okay, I just saw something, it was just in my field of vision. But if you sit there and stare for like 2 seconds, then you might be getting a little bit of a hit. One way to figure that out is, did I enjoy what I saw? And if that happens a lot, then you might not be as sober, or I don't know, what word am I looking for?
Free of that intake or that tendency.
Yeah, you might still be depending on images or, the visual in order to get a little bit of a high.
Right. The other thing we call this is edging behavior, where you're using something that wouldn't normally be considered pornography or really troubling or whatever, but it's enough so that it can be a problem.
Yeah, and again, we go back to, did you enjoy it? Because a lot of guys are like, well, it wasn't porn, it was just bikinis or lingerie or whatever. If you're still depending on that to get a dopamine hit, then you still might be somewhat dependent on outside forces or outside images or that sort of thing in order to feel better, and there might be more steps to take as far as finding your own ways of creating dopamine in ways that don't offend your own sexual integrity and don't maybe create breakdown with your wife.
Right. The next one that I would really want to call out is an addict's tendency to get sober for someone else. So, and I think this is fairly common, that most people, when they start getting sober, it's because of outside forces. They, Lori confronted me and I told her the truth, or somebody catches you at work, or whatever the situation is, due to some outside force, you've begun, you've gotten into the process of sobriety. However, it has to be your choice, because at some point, all of these outside forces saying you need to stay sober become an enemy. They become a threat. And so instead of working with them or seeing them as an ally, you begin to see them as the problem. And that can lead you back to a place of being defensive and resistant and not choosing sobriety for yourself.
I would say be careful of the mindset, nobody can get free of this. I hear that from a lot of guys, where the husband might like, yeah, I'm sober. And then he might stumble. And then he's like, well, nobody can get free of this. My brother and the guys at work and the guys at church, all of us are stumbling. The fact is, a lot of guys are getting free. In fact, there was an article in 2015 in Time magazine that said guys who, didn't have a religious background and weren't doing this for moral reasons were getting sober from pornography simply because it was leading to porn-induced erectile dysfunction, where they'd go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm 25 years old, I should be in my prime, but I can't be with a real woman. And then they'd prescribe the little blue pill and it wouldn't do any good, because it was more of a non-biological thing. It was more of a mental thing. He became mentally dependent on it. So they were surprised at how many guys were leaving porn. And Jay helps guys a lot. He has a pretty good track record helping guys find freedom in this. So that leads me to this next topic, and that is, be careful of going to a 12-step group or a men's group where not a lot of guys are getting free, especially if the leader isn't free. But if you are going to a group where a lot of guys are stumbling, then yeah, it does seem to you that, nobody can get free of this. So maybe go to a different group. There's probably tons of online ones. Reach out to Jay if you need one, but there are probably a ton of free online ones where some guys are finding freedom.
Right. Yeah. And kind of in this vein, one of the things that I hear from guys is, well, I'm going to stumble eventually. That's an unhealthy mindset, really, that says no matter what I do, I'm going to fail. The Addicts Challenge is in step 1 of a 12-step program. We all admit that we're powerless over our addiction and that we could not manage our own lives. Well, I am powerless over whether or not it's going to rain, but I can take an umbrella with me. I don't have to just wander through life feeling completely at the whim of everything around me. So the caution or the opportunity here is to be prepared for the situations that you're going into. In my groups, we talk about those as threats. I have this business trip coming up, or I have this party that I'm going to, or my brother's coming over and I know what he tends to talk about. Being aware of those things ahead of time is the thing that's going to help you avoid them in the moment. One more thing to be aware of, guys, is as you get sober and as you begin to improve, a part of you is going to want acknowledgement for that. You're going to want someone to say, good job, you're 90 days sober, or you haven't masturbated in a year, or whatever it might be. That's awesome. It is. That is an awesome accomplishment. Your wife is not going to celebrate with you. Not right away.
Yeah.
She might eventually. But going fishing for compliments and saying, hey, why don't you tell me how great I'm doing for not using porn in 90 days is like saying, hey, look, I've been breathing consistently to her. It's just not something she can praise you for.
Right. One way to look at it is how often do you praise her for not using porn or masturbating? I mean, I get that you have an addiction and that is something to overcome. And I mean, yeah, it is. Like Jay celebrates that with his guys all the time at 12-step groups. They celebrate the milestones of sobriety. Absolutely. And your wife is not necessarily the one to celebrate with. And the reason why is because she's still waiting to see if the wheels are going to come off. She's still waiting to see how long is this stretch of sobriety going to last.
Right.
Especially if you've had a good stretch before, or maybe that you've had a good stretch before, but really she found out later that, you weren't completely sober. So understand she might be a little hesitant.
Right. If you ever find yourself in a situation that you think, oh, what I did is no big deal, be careful of that phrase. Oh, it's no big deal. It was just a little thing. I wouldn't even worry about it. Those are the things that addicts begin to use to self-justify. It was no big deal. I didn't look back, or I only looked for a second. We need to become more self-aware, and absolving ourselves through a statement like no big deal, meaning I've gotten, there's nothing I can do about it, or it's such a small deal I shouldn't do anything about it, is problematic.
Another way to say it, or I've heard some guys say it this way, I can handle it.
Yeah.
I can handle it.
Right. And maybe that's true for a moment. And it's like a friend of mine says, it's true until it isn't. And you don't want to continue to put yourself in a place that's problematic. What the AA book says is, unless we have a specific purpose for being in a place that we know has triggers, there's no reason to be there. So if I need to meet somebody at the bar because it's his birthday and that's where he wants me to meet, I can be there. But if I'm just going to see if my buddies are there, that's a problem. And the same is kind of true of porn. Well, I get on Facebook all the time. No, I need to get on Facebook for a specific reason, and then I need to get off of Facebook.
If you even need to get on Facebook.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it might be.
Yeah.
more useful things you can do with your time and in areas that are less triggering. So I don't know.
Right. Again, I was saying there may be a reason, but yeah, you may not need to be out there at all.
Right. Thinking that your wife cannot give you as much joy, give you as much peace, give you as much satisfaction as, and I'm not even talking sexual, I'm talking life satisfaction where your heart feels filled. I'm going to put Jay on the spot here real quick. How is life with me now compared to what you felt like you got from porn?
I have a great deal more peace of mind, and there have been experiences with Lori, not anything to do with sex, that have been some of the best experiences of my entire life. Nothing else even comes close. So, porn is eating Twinkies hoping to get some nutrition, and actual relationship that we long for and want connection with another human being can only happen with a real person.
I think we've done a recording on this before, but it's something about living a bigger life. Yeah, I think it was actually in last season, season 4. Look in one of the titles. In fact, we might look for it, and
Okay.
we might link it down below if we can find it. Just sit, just be, just enjoy, like look at nature, be outside. He's even gone from like kind of allowing me to do most of the yard work to like enjoying doing yard work, because I was like, it can be really fun, not fun, but there's such a feeling of accomplishment, and like there was a bunch of leaves and now it's not, and now the grass isn't going to die. So anyway, he's gone from literally coming home from work and sitting in front of the couch on the TV, sitting in front of the TV on the couch for many hours, like 4 hours a night, when I was kind of taking care of the rest of it. And he would say his life, well, how would you say your life is as far as like the richness of it?
Oh, wow. Yeah, my life has a great deal more meaning and depth to it than it ever did.
Yeah, and I can tell. It comes through in his patience. It comes through in his kindness. So, okay. Also, do not think your wife is the enemy. That is one of the things we see in our couples work at first when we're, working with a new couple at first. Because she, knows what he's been up to, he suddenly kind of makes her his enemy in his own mind. So be careful of that. She's not your enemy. She's actually there to make your life easier. I see it time and time again when couples start going like, okay, you're really good at this and I'm really good at this, and if we just work together, if I listen to you, if you allow me to speak into your life, well, it would really be, the wife would be like, if you would just listen, I've got some really good ideas here. I can make your life a lot easier. I can make it better. I can help you find that joy you're trying to find through porn.
Right.
I see it time and time again that when a guy goes like, that's really a good idea, and maybe I should start, listening to her more often, and letting her in and depending on her wisdom a little bit more often. It's then that it's almost like becomes a well-oiled machine that his life becomes better.
Right.
And hers becomes better too, because she's treated as an equal. And she finally has a relationship that she's been wanting. Yeah.
There's a couple of clear reasons why the men feel like their wives are the enemy. And I'm not going to get into that right now, But please, watch some of my short videos and also reach out to me, because it is kind of a thing to understand for the guys to move past this in a healthy way. But she is not your enemy. Your past is telling you that most people you don't feel safe around, and she's a person, therefore I don't feel safe. And we're talking about my secret life, and she might leave at any moment when I say the wrong thing. So I can understand why you have, some of that energy. But at the same time, there's a conversation that's going on underneath there that we need to talk about.
And I do want to piggyback on something Jay just said. He's like, there's plenty of reasons that she's your enemy. I do want to say it's not because she's done anything wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Before you were found out, before D-Day, it was like, we were okay. She did her thing, I did mine. We came together for birthdays and, Christmas and all that, for vacations or for weekends or whatever. And we were clicking okay, clicking along okay. And then she found out, and suddenly she's the enemy. It's not because she was doing anything wrong. It's because she knows something about you that, you didn't want exposed.
Yeah.
But think about it. She knows something about you that you want to be done with,
Right.
That you don't necessarily like yourself. It might not be in line with your own sense of integrity. So she's actually there to help you. Don't know if you'll hear that or not, but
Right. Yeah. It is a very tricky situation, guys. It is something you need clarity on to be able to move forward and do it in a healthy way.
So the last one is be careful about being impatient with her healing. That's a very common thing. I've talked about it a lot out here. Just be careful with it. If you're the addict and you're listening to this, just understand if she's not healing, there might be more work to be done as far as owning or sitting in her, or listening to her pain, sitting in what this has done, sitting in the knowledge of the damage that this has caused, because it's going to be very, very difficult for her to not just heal, but even to start grieving this fully if she doesn't feel like she's heard in those areas.
Right. Yeah, that goes back to the earlier statement that sobriety alone doesn't heal the relationship. There's a lot that needs to be talked about. She needs to talk about her pain. She needs to talk about what she's going through. And that is one of the primary things that you can do, is take ownership for what you've done without getting defensive. And even if you have this conversation a dozen times, 100 times, 1,000,000 times, each time it's not to put you in your place or not to expose your screw up one more time. It's for her to get just a little bit more healing so that she might be able to move forward too.
Yep. All right, well, this one has run long, so I think we're going to let you guys go, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.